Those emails, having been through the Epstein files myself, there's not all of them yet, but they are staggering. This is a complete betrayal of by Sarah Ferguson of her daughters, in my mind, from reading through this.
So here's where things get wild. When investigators started digging through the infamous Epstein files, the emails they uncovered were, frankly, jaw-dropping. For viewers who followed the glamorous yet occasionally chaotic world of the royal family, the revelations surrounding Sarah Ferguson and her daughters felt like someone suddenly pulled back the velvet curtain on a very complicated stage play. Before we dive into today's story, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our deep dives into royal drama, political intrigue, and the stories behind the headlines. Your support really helps the channel grow and keeps these fascinating breakdowns coming. And once you've watched the full story, be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. Because with stories like this, there's always more beneath the surface. Behind the polished royal smiles and perfectly timed public appearances, the documents hinted at a tangled web of pressure, loyalty, reputation management, and the occasional, "Wait, what just happened?" moment. At the center of the storm was Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, whose name surfaced in discussions connected to the shadowy network of Jeffrey Epstein, a financier whose story reads less like a biography and more like a very dark thriller. Epstein had already shocked the world back in 2008, after a Florida court convicted him of procuring a minor for prostitution. Yet his punishment looked suspiciously like a luxury inconvenience. A little over a year in county jail with unusually generous work release privileges that had critics asking if justice had accidentally been put on airplane mode. Even more baffling, after serving that sentence, Epstein somehow slid right back into elite social circles, mingling with billionaires, politicians, and celebrities as if a criminal conviction were just an awkward footnote in his resume. Fast forward to 2019, when federal prosecutors in New York charged him with sex trafficking minors, exposing the staggering scale of his alleged operations. Then came the twist no Hollywood writer would dare pitch because it sounded too unbelievable. Epstein was found dead in his prison cell in August of that year, officially ruled a suicide, instantly igniting endless debates, suspicions, and conspiracy theories. After his death, the Department of Justice began releasing documents, later dubbed the Epstein Files, a massive archive of travel logs, emails, and internal correspondence that gave investigators and the public a rare peek into the machinery of a world built on money, influence, and secrecy. The names, the networks, the sheer reach of it all stunned observers and reinforced an uncomfortable reality. When wealth and power collide, accountability sometimes takes a very long vacation. Amid those revelations, attention turned toward Sarah Ferguson, whose life had long been tied to the royal spotlight through her marriage to Prince Andrew. When emails connected to Epstein surfaced, public curiosity quickly turned into controversy. By September 2025, the situation escalated dramatically when newly released documents reportedly revealed the depth of Ferguson's contact with Epstein. The fallout was swift and brutal. 7 charities immediately severed ties, including the Teenage Cancer Trust, an organization she had supported for over 3 decades. Palace insiders reportedly weren't accusing her of wrongdoing, but they were definitely clutching their teacups a little tighter because, in royal terms, optics can be just as explosive as facts. Questions began flying. Who might gain access through such connections? Who benefits from proximity to former royals? And what expectations might follow when financial support appears during difficult times? The drama intensified when Ferguson reportedly left the United Kingdom around the same time scrutiny and financial pressure were mounting. Some observers interpreted her move toward the Gulf, particularly rumors involving Qatar, as more than just a change of scenery. Royal commentators have often noted that certain regions of the Middle East are places where British reputation storms don't always blow quite as fiercely. In that light, relocating there could offer breathing room away from relentless headlines and financial oversight back home. Still, despite all the speculation, no official statement has confirmed any permanent arrangement, leaving the story hovering somewhere between unanswered questions, palace intrigue, and the kind of drama that reminds everyone the royal world is sometimes less like a fairy tale and more like a very expensive reality show. The sequence of events: Sarah Ferguson's final memorial appearance, her sudden disappearance, reported presence in the Gulf, and alleged negotiations, forms a pattern that many observers find difficult to dismiss as coincidence. Inside royal circles, the tone has reportedly shifted from simple curiosity to quiet calculation, as the narrative of a temporary retreat begins to look more like strategic repositioning. On September 16, 2025, Sarah Ferguson attended the memorial service of Catherine, Duchess of Kent, a solemn event that would become her last confirmed public appearance before she seemingly vanished from the royal calendar. Soon after, reports suggested she traveled to the Gulf, with time spent in the United Arab Emirates and possible financial negotiations taking place in Qatar, allegedly involving investment support and strict confidentiality protections that could shield her from intense media scrutiny. The controversy intensified as the long shadow of Jeffrey Epstein resurfaced, with newly released documents in 2025 linking Ferguson to communications that ultimately led several charities, including the Teenage Cancer Trust, to sever ties after decades of association. Critics argued that the relationship gave Epstein access to royal circles through Prince Andrew, while insiders described the connection as a damaging miscalculation that erased years of charitable goodwill. Amid the growing controversy, attention also turned toward Ferguson's daughters, particularly Princess Beatrice, whose life has long unfolded in the unusual space between privilege and uncertainty. Born in 1988 to Andrew and Ferguson, Beatrice grew up under constant public scrutiny, yet without the clear royal role reserved for heirs like Prince William. Instead of following a traditional royal path, she pursued education at St. George's School in Ascot, and later at Goldsmiths, University of London, eventually building a career in business, technology, and consulting, while maintaining a quieter royal presence. Diagnosed with dyslexia as a child, she faced academic challenges but later became an advocate for awareness, showing resilience despite the pressures of royal life. Today, however, the broader situation surrounding the York family appears increasingly fragile. Ferguson and Andrew have reportedly lost access to Royal Lodge, financial pressures have mounted, and properties, including a London townhouse, have been sold. What once looked like a temporary storm now appears to many observers as part of a much larger shift in influence, reputation, and survival within the modern royal landscape. By this point, the situation around Sarah Ferguson had gone from royal drama to what some observers might politely call a financial magic trick. Except the trick was making money disappear. After selling a London townhouse for about £2.2 million and somehow still taking a £400,000 loss, her estimated net worth reportedly dropped to around £745,000. Now that might sound respectable to the average person, but in royal terms it barely buys a modest house near Windsor, especially when you remember the decades of lavish spending, the 17 staff members she once employed, and the millions in debt she carried in the 1990s. Even her charitable efforts struggled under the weight of the controversy, with her foundation announcing it would close for the foreseeable future. Meanwhile, King Charles III broke long-standing royal tradition by publicly condemning his brother Prince Andrew and ordering both Andrew and Ferguson out of Royal Lodge, a move that made it clear the palace had run out of patience. Amid all this chaos, their daughter Princess Beatrice continued trying to live something resembling a normal life. Well, as normal as life gets when you're a princess who once accidentally turned a wedding hat into an international meme at the 2011 wedding of Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales. Instead of hiding from the jokes, she auctioned the hat for charity and raised more than €80,000 for UNICEF, proving she had both humor and resilience. Unlike senior royals, Beatrice built a career outside palace walls, studying at Goldsmiths, University of London, and working in business and technology, while quietly supporting causes like dyslexia awareness, a condition she was diagnosed with as a child. She even kept her relationship with property developer Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi relatively private before the couple married in a small pandemic-era ceremony in 2020. But no matter how carefully she balanced independence with royal heritage, family scandals kept pulling her back into the spotlight. The situation intensified when old correspondence linked to Jeffrey Epstein resurfaced, including a controversial 2011 email allegedly showing Andrew contacting a police officer about information related to accuser Virginia Giuffre. When the email reappeared years later, it reopened wounds across the monarchy and reportedly angered Ferguson, who had spent years defending Andrew during the Epstein crisis. The renewed scrutiny reminded everyone that royal controversies rarely stay buried. Investigators reviewing the Epstein files described a disturbing web of influence, correspondence, and connections that blurred the lines between social ambition, personal judgment, and manipulation. For observers trying to piece together the timeline, the story felt less like a simple scandal and more like a slow-burning puzzle, one involving family loyalty, public reputation, and the lingering shadow of a man whose influence stretched far beyond what anyone initially imagined. And that leaves the lingering question hanging in the air. How much of this royal turbulence was misfortune? How much was poor judgment? And how much was the result of forces operating quietly behind the scenes? Whatever the answer, one thing is certain. The ripple effects continue to shape the lives of everyone involved. If you found this story fascinating, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next deep dive into royal drama, political intrigue, and the stories behind the headlines. Your support helps the channel grow, and it lets us keep bringing you the most interesting and entertaining breakdowns of the world's biggest controversies. And don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comments below, because in stories like this, there's always more beneath the surface.